Well, don't that beat all? Oh, hey everybody, how you doing? So, I finally decided to sit down and read about actual pirates. You know, pirates that lived in our world and went a plundering a matey and stuff like that. And I gotta say, I'm a little bit underwhelmed after reading One Piece. First and foremost, and I don't mean to break any of your spirits here, but there were no cyborg pirates. Not a single one. Not a single cyborg pirate aboard a ship on the high seas in the 18th century in the Caribbean. Not a single one. They didn't drink cola. They didn't have laser arm cannon technology, let alone Megazord technology. Nothing like that. Kind of sad. Not only that, but get this. There were no devil fruits back then. Not a single devil fruit. Nobody's turning into jackets or sun deities. No one has the ability to cause earthquakes. Like, what was the fun of being a pirate then? All they had were guns and swords. That was it. Guns and swords and a lot of booze. But beyond that, I mean, I guess Zoro could make that work. But other than that, they didn't even have magical weather staves to, like, bring down lightning bolts. Man, being a pirate must have sucked back in the day. Who'd want to do that? But anyway, today we're going to be talking about the code. That's right, not just any code, the pirate code, matey! In the last chapter of One Piece, chapter 1079, we saw Eustass Captain Kidd break the pirate code, and we saw what happened to him, right? You gotta respect the code, alright? Big Mom said as much during Wano. So, there's never actually been a moment where Oda has, like, sat us down and explained to us the pirate code. He never released, like, a data book or something. Like, here are that was pretty much that. Yeah, I decided to make out a whole video about this. Considering now we are also moving on class, we now have Luffy and Buggy as the new emperors, but we're not really going to worry about them right now. The veteran members of the emperors that are still around. We have Shanks, who has been an emperor for 6 years, and we have Blackbeard, who I like to think became an emperor, maybe a little longer than that. But, you know, those are two. Blackbeard, for one thing, committed the most grievous sin that any member of a pirate crew can commit, in that he killed his fellow crewmate, Thatch, to receive the Yami Yami no Mi, or rather steal the Yami Yami no Mi, I should say. So we're going to be getting into that. And then you have Shanks. Shanks is a stand-up pirate amongst pirates that was raised by the king. He was an apprentice pirate alongside Buggy on the Oro Jackson for several years. Shanks really learned what it meant to be a pirate, not just from Roger himself, but that process in a very respectful kind of way. He wanted to check to see if Kidd's wounds had healed from Wano first. That was a concern. You know, like, even asked Yasopp, like, is he still okay? It's only been a couple of weeks. You know, I don't want to go into fight somebody that has, like, a broken arm and a messed up leg or something like that. And Yasopp said, oh no, he looks fine. He looks all healed up. And Shanks is like, okay, well, I guess it's fine then, right? He sent Rockstar to kind of do parlay with Kidd, which, by the way, we're going to get into parlay in this video, and that might also be another reason to kind of, like, negotiate with Kidd first before they just started an outright fight. And even if the fight were to really get on, I would imagine it would be Shanks kind of challenging Kidd to a duel, or maybe a one-on-one kind of deal, like, hey, can we settle this without causing mass destruction? And what does Kidd do? Well, he opens up with mass destruction. No warning, no nothing, just start blasting all of the ships. So I think it's really easy to look at being a pirate and just say, like, there are no rules, you know? We're pirates, matey! There's no rules! You know, you bust out your strongest attack and you start blasting the crap out of the enemy ships. That's how it works, right? Well, look at it this way. There's many different kinds of pirates in the One Piece world. There are pirates that are certainly like that. There are pirates like Eustass Kidd that will shoot first and ask questions later, and that's pretty much what Eustass has done all up and down the Grand Line, up until, well, his journey kind of ended, you know, in the last chapter. There's a lot of other pirates, though, that are all just about that, though. Just arriving on an island, and it doesn't really matter who's there. It doesn't matter if they're innocent civilians or whatever. Murder, pillage, burn the town down, steal all the valuables, and just get the hell out of Dodge. You know what I mean? Like, before the Marines show up. That's certainly a level of pirate that exists in One Piece. But if you look at most, and I will, you know, quantify this by saying most of the big top-level pirates, like the Emperors, for example, and the great pirates of history, like, you know, Roger and Whitebeard and Shanks right now, and even Kaido and Big Mom. Kaido and Big Mom were a lot more violent than, you know, Shanks. Well, okay, Shanks was pretty damn violent in the last chapter, but you know what I mean. They had their big pirate empires kind of built up, and, you know, Kaido in particular wanted to make the pirate paradise. He wanted to turn Wano into this pirate paradise where they could all come together in like this lawless land sort of situation, okay? So different kind of goals here, but even they still had a code. Even Big Mom still abided by the code, all right? Now, when I say almost all major pirates, not all of them, of course, I'm referring to Blackbeard. Also, I would say Rocks kind of didn't really follow the code all too much, but you got to also remember that Whitebeard and Kaido and Big Mom, as well as Shiki, Silver Axe, Wang Ji, all of those guys, were raised and were brought up on Rox's ship. They traveled on Rox's ship first. So you could argue that Rox might have actually abided by the pirate code pretty well, maybe bent it a little bit. It was certainly a lot more violent in his day. But you could say that they, got that knowledge and that respect for the code kind of from Rox. So we're going to be diving into that today. So one of the first things I want to bring up here, actually, before we even really get into that, do you know the origin of the word Kaizoku in Japanese? I just wanted to mention this as a little bit more of a caveat and a little bit more of a trivia fact, if anything, because I never actually looked up the etymology of it. So Kaizoku, Kaizoku Arni Oriwanar, I messed that up, but you know what, I want to be king of the pirates, Luffy always says it. It's actually taking two kanji for ocean, or umi, or one of the readings for it, because there's different readings, is kai, so ocean, and then the other one is tozoku, which means bandit. Literally just translates to bandit, so ocean bandit or sea bandit, which I find funny because Luffy really hates mountain bandits, but technically speaking, bandit is still in, like, he calls himself a pirate. That's part of the etymology of the word, so I found that kind of funny. So, I mean, it's very direct, if nothing else. An ocean bandit. Pirate, Kaizoku, there we go. So, early on in early One Piece, and when I say early One Piece, I mean even before proper One Piece, when Oda was still messing around with Romance Dawn V1 and Romance Dawn V2. All right, kind of sounds like a Transformers season right there. You know, Romance Dawn V2. You know, version 1 and 2, which were the prototype versions, the pilot chapters, as it were, for what One Piece would become. Okay, Oda actually separated pirates into two groups. Do you know what they are? One group is referred to as the Peace Main, and another group is referred to as the Morganeers, which is a really fun word to say. Just say that really quick. Morganeer, which may in fact be the reason why Captain Morgan was, one of the main first enemies that Luffy and Zoro had to face, because that's just a cool name. And also Morgans comes back later, and then Morganeer. Okay, so two basic kinds of pirates. Peace Mains, as the name implies, are not really so much about murder and plunder, not really even about treasure at the end of the day. They're more about just adventuring and having fun, really. Like, I shall travel out to sea to see this great world, if no other reason, just to explore the greatness of this planet, something like that, just to have fun with my crew, which of course, as you would assume, that's Luffy's group there. Not necessarily like they might be going for treasure, but it's not like their undying greed that pushes them forward. They might go out to sea for other reasons as well, not necessarily for any of the standard pirate reasons. Morganeers are the ones that do go out to sea for treasure and pure ambition, and they have no compunctions about murdering pretty much anyone. So, if you're just going to literally look at this, the pirates that would exemplify Peace Mains probably the best are the Straw Hats, and the pirates that would exhibit Morganeers probably like Eustace Kid, who, as we've learned in the story, will just go into a town, murder everybody, take a bunch of pirate crews, completely decimate them, and stake them to a bunch of trees and hang them up outside of town. Like that's the kind of crap Kid was pulling, especially from the last chapter when he pulled out his damned punk railgun and just started blasting all of Shanks' allies. So yeah, now I think the reason Oda decided not to go with this, and it does make sense, it does kind of limit you to what you can really do here. If you're putting these, at the end of the day, like most things in the world, it's not just black and white. It's a lot of different shades of gray when we're talking about this. So encountering pirate crews that, may very well just be out there. Like even Shanks, I would argue. Shanks is out there more for adventure rather than just plunder and murder. But, Shanks has definitely had to kill a lot of people in his day. He's definitely had to commit some atrocities throughout his life, certainly. So I think that's what more of Oda was going for here. If you just keep keep it these two specific kind of categories, then it's like it kind of limits you to what you can do. You can't really make super complicated, ambiguous characters when you have to put them in one of the categories. You're either the peace-loving, fun kind of pirate, or you're the mean kind of plunder pirate. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of times in One Piece, you know, with a few exceptions that are definitely more than one or the other, a lot of times they are a mix of these two different groups. So I can see why Oda kind of scrapped that. So let's talk about now the pirate code that we know of in One Piece. As in the kind of rules that are explicitly stated to us in the One Piece world, okay? And I would say the most prominent one, and because Whitebeard himself even kind of said this was the most prominent one, you know, when he was talking to Shanks, when Shanks had his first meeting with Whitebeard right after Enies Lobby, and he was explaining the whole situation with Blackbeard to Ace, and like, I need you to stop Ace before he gets himself killed, and Whitebeard gets kind of infuriated by that, because Shanks was sort of telling him what to do, but more importantly than that, Teach, Blackbeard, committed one of the worst crimes, an absolute travesty on board the Moby Dick, all right, that every pirate in the world knows, like, not to cross that line, and Teach crossed that line. And so Whitebeard got enraged at Shanks for basically telling him to just, you know, live and let live, kind of let, you know, Teach go, and forget about the death of Thatch, who, remember, Whitebeard, you know, viewed all of his crewmates as his children, as his, you know, family. So he says to Shanks that, you know, when every single pirate joins my crew, no matter how stupid they are, they become like a son to me. So what am I to say for the death of my son? Every pirate in the world knows not to kill one another, and if Teach doesn't understand that on his own, then it's my responsibility to drill it into his thick head. You know what I mean? So that was basically Whitebeard's thoughts on the matter. So I'm going to put that as, like, you know, commandment number 1 or you know, article number 1 to the code, however you want to divvy this up. You know, you don't kill fellow crewmates. And you know what's crazy? In most cases, I would even see the most hardcore evil pirates would still abide by this rule to an extent. You know, just mostly because just it's not practical, you know, if, you know, your crew is just wantonly killing each other on the deck constantly and there's no repercussions for this. First of all, it's probably not going to be a pirate crew for very long if everyone's just murdering one another and you're losing, you know, hands to help you on the deck. But also it kind of just, you know, it's just like, once again, it's like, hey, we're here as a group to do a task, whether or not that task is, you know, a noble task or, you know, somewhat of an evil task to commit. But we're here to commit a task together. We're here all together. Maybe not all pirate crews view themselves as family, but even so, you can't be killing one another, all right? So I would feel, even though Blackbeard is the one that killed Thatch, and even later he said to Ace, he kind of tried to justify it a little bit, you know, when Ace brought it up to Blackbeard when they were fighting at Bonaro Island, Teach, which, by the way, Edward Thatch was Blackbeard, historical Blackbeard's real name, but Teach said of Thatch, he's like, hey, man, it wasn't personal why I killed him, it's just I wanted his devil fruit, it was nothing behind it, really, you know, and so Ace was infuriated that he would try to, like, justify the death of a crewmate, so this is like a big deal here, okay? I would argue, even on Blackbeard's crew, which are very, very piratey, even on Blackbeard's crew, I feel like he would not be okay with, like, members of the 10 Titanic captains, like, killing one another. You know, like, if Shiryu got bored one day and took out his sword and sliced, Augur in half, or Burgess in half, or whatever, and just straight up killed him just because he felt like it. Say ha ha ha! Oh, Shiryu! Well, I guess you got bored and you sliced Burgess in half. What are you gonna do, right? Say ha ha ha! That's what it means to be a pirate! You know, no, I feel like Blackbeard would attempt to reprimand Shiryu for that if he were attempted to such a thing, you know what I mean? And that might be a thing as well. Like, the Blackbeard crew might seem like it's holding together right now, but they might have some infighting here. They might have some moments where they, you know, encounter one another. Yeah, and I feel like a pirate crew that is okay with that, a pirate crew that's just like, yes, mateys, just fight to your heart's content on the deck of me ship, who cares? You know, and he comes out the next day and just like, good morning, fellow crewmates. Oh, and they're all dead. Oh, I should have really stepped up as a captain here. I would think that if that was the case with a pirate ship, then they really wouldn't even be considered pirates. They would be considered a band of thugs, if nothing else. A band of just, you know, a motley crew of thugs that got together and just murdered one another. You know, those weren't, like, Shanks would not consider them true pirates. Roger or Whitebeard would not consider a crew like that true pirates. They were just pretending to be pirates without actually knowing the code, which, by the way, in and of itself is against the code. You don't pretend to be a pirate, okay? That's another thing, too. You don't, like, go out to sea and just like, oh, yes, we are now pirates, yay! Because it's like you're playing in the big leagues now, and it's like you don't know. When you fly the Jolly Roger, you gotta mean it, all right? And a lot of the pirate code kind of comes back to that, of just like your actions have an effect on the world around you in a big way. This is not a game. We are not playing a dress-up kind of like, you know, a costume ball or whatever. Like, look at me, everybody. I got a tricorn hat and an eye patch, matey. You know what I mean? No, this is a big boy game, so to speak, especially in the Grand Line. Okay, I can imagine a lot of maybe a small-town group of thugs somewhere in the South Blue deciding they're going to get a boat and travel around the South and plunder or whatever and pretend to be pirates. But once you go into the Grand Line, all bets are off. You know, the gloves are off. You are now playing in the big leagues here. And if you run across an actual, real, legit pirate crew, and you're just kind of playing around, and you know, the pirate crew attacks you, and you're just like, oh, no, you don't understand. We're not real pirates. We were just pretending. We were just messing around. Jolly Roger? Nah, it's not a real Jolly Roger. We were just pretending, guys. We were just having fun, right? Yeah, having fun. Bang, you know, bang, 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 you know, that's how it's gonna go, all right? That's how it's gonna go, all right? When you raise that Jolly Roger, you mean it, okay? And you know what? That's a rather fascinating thing with Luffy's character. Luffy is very happy-go-lucky. He's a very energetic kind of guy, you know what I mean? And he's excited to be a pirate. He's excited to go out in the world and explore and find the One Piece and have a great crew and get a ship and have all these crazy adventures. You know, Luffy's excited for all of that. But Luffy still knows what it means to be a real pirate. That's probably my favorite moments with Luffy in the story, whenever things get serious, and it's almost like you could see the switch flipping on in Luffy's head, where, yes, he is very random, he is very wacky, but he knows when to be serious. He knows when, okay, I'm the captain of a pirate crew. There are certain responsibilities that I have to commit to in that role. Luffy is not playing pretend. You know, when they made the Straw Hat Jolly Roger, when Usopp drew it and they flew it on the Going Merry, Luffy was not there like, wow, guys, this is so much fun. We're just pretending to be pirates. No, this is us. We are now truly proper pirate crews, and we are going to present ourselves as such. So that's the crazy thing. That's the interesting thing I like about Luffy's character, that he's fun-loving, but he understands what it is to be a pirate. You commit to an action, you have to mean it. And this kind of goes into what happened in the last chapter, chapter 1079. And Dory and Broggy sort of exemplified this when they destroyed the Victoria Punk. They said, you know, when you point a loaded gun at somebody's hometown, don't be surprised when they fire back, okay? So that's another way. Like, when you threaten somebody, you have to mean it, and you have to understand those consequences, okay? So, like, you can't just pretend to be like, hey, you know, give us all your money or we'll shoot you with this cannon. Like, if you're attempting to bluff somebody or if you're attempting to just, like, scare them. If that other pirate crew turns around and completely obliterates every single person on that ship and destroys your ship in the process, and you're just floating in the water, it's just like, we were just messing around. Like, it's the big leagues, like we said, you know? Now, granted, Kid meant it. I mean, we saw that in Shanks' future sight. Kid pulled out that gun and he started firing. And so it's not a matter of, like, Kid was not committed to it. But the matter is, like, look, you could have had a fair fight with Shanks, or as fair of a fight as possible with Shanks, but you opted to discard that. You opted to throw that in the trash by opening fire first without anything else, without even waiting for parley, without waiting for Shanks to confront you. You just started opening fire. And basically at the end of this chapter, what honestly you have to take away from it is that Eustace and Killer and any of the members of the Kid pirate crew have no right to complain about what happened at Elbaf. All right? I don't think Kid is dead, but if Kid regains consciousness and he's like, oh man, that damn red hair, he didn't even fight fair, what the hell? You know, Kid has no right to say that after what he pulled. He pulled a gun, he fired the shot. Everything that happened afterwards, he kind of was asking for it, you know? I would actually have more respect for Eustace if after he recovers and he's there and he kind of has a moment where he realizes, like, that it was me. I'm the one that did that. I'm the one that opened fire first, and as a response to that, Killer almost died. My crew almost died. Some of the members on Kid's crew definitely died. We lost our ship. If Kid takes responsibility that for himself, rather than just blame everything on Shanks, it's like, man, if it wasn't for Shanks, we'd be fine right now. Man, Shanks sucks. You know, it's like, but if he realizes, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done what I did, that would actually be some very good character development for Eustace. I really do think that. That would be a very interesting way of tackling that. But we'll have to see on which direction Oda takes it there. Moving on to Parlay a little bit. And this is where we're getting more into Pirates of the Caribbean, because there is an actual, like, code of pirates in the Caribbean. It gets brought up a lot of times. Like I said, I've only watched the first movie, Curse of the Black Pearl, which was okay. It was an alright movie, I guess. I'm not a huge Johnny Depp fan. You know, not really. Like, I wouldn't say he's overrated or anything. It's just that I never really particularly cared for any of the movies that he was in. Just whatever. Anyway, there's a thing in the Pirates of the Caribbean where if you raise a white flag, or if you go and ask for parlay, as in two rival pirate crews kind of get together to, like, talk and, like, discuss things, that's sort of like a safe zone. That's sort of like a non-combat, like, you don't fight, you don't stab anybody in the back. It's like parlay, all right? This actually reminds me of something that Don Krieg did. Now, Don Krieg was a scummy pirate, all right? And he was a scummy pirate because he did not care at all for these codes. He would basically build up his armada, and he would be the kind of pirate that would just go around and murder everybody without any sort of compunctions or honor or decorum, okay? One thing that Krieg would do is he would actually fly a white flag of surrender, or he would even pretend to be a marine vessel, and then he would attack rival crews or, citizens or towns, pretending to be Marines, pretending to surrender, and then he would be like, haha, we're kidding, yarg, I'm Don Krieg! That kind of shit. Krieg would not have lasted. Like, that's not the reason Mihawk finished off his fleet, because they just interrupted Mihawk's nap. That was really their grievous sin. But let's say they didn't run into Mihawk. Eventually, they would have run into another pirate crew where they would have tried that, where Krieg would have been like, aye, matey, there's a pirate crew off the port bow. Raise the white flag. We'll make them think we're surrendering, and then we'll attack them. Yeah, if Krieg tried that shit against Shanks, I mean, there'd be nothing left. I mean, Mihawk at least left one ship and a few men to get back to the East Blue. If he would have tried that crap against Shanks, yeah, the Krieg pirates, like, the Baratier arc would just not have happened. The Baratier arc would have been pretty chill, as a matter of fact. They would have gotten to the Baratier, and they would have, Luffy would have still broken the building, and, they would have had to work as a chore boy for a little while in the kitchen, and, they would have had to talk to Shanks, but, like, the Krieg pirates would have never showed up. They would have been dead. They would have been completely eradicated in the New World. Or not in the New World. They wouldn't have made it that far, in just Paradise. Yeah. So, yeah, I wonder how the Baratier arc would have finished up there. Actually, you know what? This isn't about the video, but as, like, a sort of what-if scenario there, if that was the situation, then Nami would have still found out about Arlong. She might have still stolen the Mary, but since Krieg and his pirate crew weren't at the Baratier, Luffy and Yosaku and maybe Sanji, if Sanji still wanted to come along, would immediately go from the Baratier directly to Arlong Park. So I guess that's how the difference of that would have been. But anyway, that's parlay. It's just sort of like, hey, we're enemy pirates, but we still have a code, so if one of us asks for parlay to discuss some things, we will honor that and not attack. You don't, like, I can't believe that worked. Wow, we're in the enemy pirate stronghold. You let us come in here. And then it's like, ha-ha! It's like, no, you don't do that. Let's see here. There's another interesting one in Pirates of the Caribbean. If you fall behind, you are left behind. Meaning that if you are injured or weakened or whatever, sick or something, and you can no longer travel with the crew will not wait for you. They will leave you behind. This is one in One Piece that Now, don't make no mistake. I could see a lot of pirate crews abiding by this. You know, a lot more of the tougher ones, like Blackbeard's crew. I could see doing this. I don't see this with Luffy's crew. If one of the Straw Hats was very sick or ill, which has happened before, I don't see Luffy just leaving them behind. I don't see Luffy just being like, well, Nami's sick. Well, she can't keep up with us. All right, we're just going to leave her on this island. Bye, everybody. You know what I mean? So that's something that really depends more on the pirate crew itself. This is something interesting, though. Marooning. So a punishment that I think was pretty common back in the day was not even necessarily just straight up like walking the plank or like killing a pirate, but marooning them on an island. And this is if they committed like, a crime aboard the ship or whatever. They would be marooned. And in the case with marooning, they would be given like one piece of bread, maybe a little bit of water, and a pistol with a single shot loaded in it. So you can kind of assume that, like, okay, if you committed a grievous sin aboard a pirate crew, like if you were stealing from fellow crewmates or stealing treasure from everybody, kind of, and that was the kind of situation, you could just be killed, like on the spot. You could just be killed, or you would be marooned on an island. And if you were marooned on an island, you were given the, like, okay, here's a piece of bread and a hardtack or whatever, and then here's a pistol. It has one shot in it. There you go. Bye. And then... And yeah, so that's a thing. Going along with the killing people thing on board the crew, there's also probably a lot of rules just in terms of serious brawling or fighting. Ships might have had a rule that's like, because you got to remember, real life pirates, they did not just get all together and be like, hey, do you want to be a pirate? I want to be a pirate. You want to be a pirate? Let's be pirates. And then just sailing along with no code or no contract, no writing. We look at pirates as outlaws, so we look at them as the antithesis to order and law, right? It's like, oh, if you're aboard like a Navy vessel, they have rules and regulations. Pirates just sail. No. CGP Grey did a really good 2-part video on this where he discussed, what it was like to be a pirate from the captain's perspective and from the quartermaster's perspective. So I would definitely recommend to go check out those videos on his channel up here. Big fan of CGP Grey's stuff. But pirates still had a contract. And it makes sense that they would, because why wouldn't they? If they didn't have a contract, that just leads to more confusing shit. You know what I mean? That would lead to people just fighting on the deck constantly. Hey, we found some treasure from we defeated the Navy and we got some treasure. And just be like, I want that treasure, matey! And then just start beating the crap out of each other on the deck. Of course there had to be a contract. So the contract... make no mistake, a lot of it, I was actually reading into an actual pirate contract. A lot of it's pretty dry. I mean, it wasn't interesting. It wasn't filled with, like, mateys, the captain, just like, no, it was pretty boring standard shit. It's like looking through, like, life insurance policies or whatever. It's just, hey, this is mainly how the treasure's going to be divvied up. That was the main focus. During battle, the captain is the one that kind of has full control over the crew. When there's a battle going on, even if the captain is somebody you might not like too much, there needs to be a chain of command. There needs to be order. Keep in mind, most pirates back in the day were former members of the military, were former members of the Navy of whatever kingdom or country or whatever they served, and they decided that the government was screwing them over, so they decided to go and be a pirate. So a lot of the stuff they took from their military service transferred to when they became a pirate. So one of those is a chain of command and a contract and stuff. How's the treasure going to be divvied up? The captain, the quartermaster, they would receive higher shares. The boatswain or, the shipwright or, the sawbones, the doctors, they would receive maybe a share and a quarter, and then the regular members of the crew would just receive a share. Sometimes they were like, I think the quartermaster would receive like a share and a half. They would divvy this all up. This would all be in the contract, and every single member of the pirate crew had to look over this contract and agree to it. And if they ever at any point decided that, screw this, I don't want to listen to the captain, I don't want to listen to the freaking quartermaster, well, they could do a little bit of I hesitate to say, like a senate or whatever. like a pirate gathering, sort of like a town hall meeting sort of situation. And if they opted to vote out the captain, they could vote out the captain, okay? But if you're just like generally, like if everybody's cool with the captain giving orders or the quartermaster giving orders or whoever would give orders on a day-to-day basis, and you're just some lazy piece of shit on the deck that's just like, I'm not listening to you. I don't want to listen to you. I just want to sit here and eat. You know, I just mean you're going to be punished for that. Like, you know, that's another kind of ironclad rule. It's just like, hey, when you're given an order on a pirate ship, you got to do it. That's the order. That's the freaking arrangement here. Now, if there's a problem, you could, you know, have a thing just like, hey, we don't like you, Captain. You're a slave driver. You're running us through. You know, it's like we can, you know, change captains or whatever. But, you know what I mean? Like, if you're just one person off to the side doing this and everybody else is cool with the chain of command and you're the one that's the problem, you could be kicked off. You could be marooned. Who knows? You know, you could be killed. You know, so, yeah. Killing a surrendering enemy. That's something that's a big no-no, and that's also something that I'm feeling why Kid... Now, here's the thing. Kid did not surrender. They did surrender, but it wasn't until after they committed the act, okay? Kid takes out the gun, fires at all the ships, Shanks attacks, knocks Killer out, knocks Kid out, and then, only then, is when Heat and Wire stepped up, and they were like, okay, we surrender, we give up. And to be fair, Kid did not... I mean, Shanks did not cut Heat and Wire down after they surrendered, okay? But... I think at that point, it's kind of too little too late. You know what I mean? Because you're the ones that definitely opened up the attack. You kind of opened up the proceedings. But, okay, you did surrender eventually. So Shanks did leave after that. But then after that, their ship was destroyed. So I think that rule is a little bit different. Maybe it would have been a little bit different if, let's say, Kid surrendered immediately. Like, upon Kid seeing that Shanks was there, he immediately either turned around or he immediately stopped and, like, waved the white flag. He's like, all right, Shanks, sorry. We didn't know you were on Elbaf. We didn't know you were here. We give up. We're not going to fight you. Shanks would not have touched them. Shanks would not have touched them if they would have agreed. And that was even his beginning deal. That was the agreement. That was the deal that he sent Rockstar to parlay. You know, just like drop your road poneglyphs and leave, and we won't touch you. So that was the original plan, you know, so that's even shows Shanks right there. If they agree to surrender, I won't touch them. But they didn't surrender. So, yeah. So, yeah, those are all, like, the major pirate rules I kind of discovered just kind of looking around online at the stuff. Let me know what you think about these as they translate to the One Piece world. Like I said, some of this stuff was, like, things that are, like, actually on, like, real pirate, like, contracts and stuff. Like I said, that was mostly how to, like, divvy up treasure and the chain of command on the ship and how to, like, you know, whatever, how to, like, if you don't like the captain, how you can transfer them out or whatever. And then there's stuff from, like, other works of fiction, like Pirates of the Caribbean, and then there's stuff that we learned from One Piece itself. So let me know if there's any other pirate code, for example, that you would think of that would belong in the story that Oda has crafted here. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. And now, moving on to Snake Facts, matey. Yarg! All right, so today we're going to be talking about an ancient snake, which is also the largest snake. All right, so pythons or whatever, although this might be related to a python. Today we're talking about the Titanoboa, or the Titanic boa. This mother right here, this giant-ass snake right here, lived in the far-off era of, what was it? Oh, 2013! Oh, that was a long time ago, 2013. I barely remember that. 2013 was 10 years ago. Just going to let that sit in for everybody over the age of 30, which is going to be me pretty soon. Anyway, no, 60 to 58 million years ago. So it was the KT extinction event, the, you know, giant meteor that, you know, killed all the dinosaurs, or the non-flying variants of dinosaurs. That happened around 66 million years ago. So this was a little bit after that. So they were kind of thriving at this point. You know, a lot of reptiles were thriving in the jungles of the very warmer regions of the world. The Titanoboa lived in an area that is now modern-day Colombia. And they could grow up to a startling 12 meters or over 42 feet, sometimes upwards of maybe 47 feet, people actually surmise. So that's very impressive. And they could weigh as much as 2,500 pounds. That's over 1 ton of snake. That is 1 ton of snack. All right. Another species that were thriving at this time were the crocodilians. The crocodilians kind of sounds like an alien race of crocodile people, but no, it's just crocodiles, the ancestors of the crocodiles. The Titan boas would devour crocodiles whole, and these were like ancient crocodiles. Granted, crocodiles haven't really changed all that much from before the time to now. They're kind of like turtles. Turtles are evolutionary, very old. Same thing with crocodiles. But these boas were so massive, they could literally just devour a freaking crocodile like that. That's insane. There's a thing, because most large snakes, like the boa constrictors and everything like that, the pythons and whatnot, are found in very warm tropical environments, like tropical forests and jungles and stuff like that. So there's an idea that the warmer a climate is, the larger snakes will grow. Because right around the equator, where a lot of snakes live, you get really big, like pythons and boa constrictors and shit like that. But if you go further and further away from the equator, like the adder, the European adder that we were talking about last time that lives above the Arctic Circle, relatively small snakes in comparison, okay? So there might actually be a connection to, like, temperature and climate and size of the snake. So there you go. But yeah, that was the Titanoboa, and it is so far the largest snake to ever be discovered in the fossil record. So maybe we'll find another one that's even bigger, but you know, that's what you'd have to contend with if you time traveled back to that time period. So yeah, would have been a sight to see. Would have been like a live action like version of that 90s movie Anaconda, you know what I mean? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is Tekking signing out, matey. Yarg.